evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Thursday, October 31, 2024. Making the headlines tonight, National Met Service monitoring area of low pressure. The Prime Minister visits flooded areas in Orange Walk, and Dr. Omar Figueroa recognizes Tracy Panton as the UDP's interim leader. We take our first break and return with the news in detail.
Life has taught us that certain pleasures are best enjoyed slowly.
reflect our society at its best. Equal Opportunities Bill. Belize, we're ready.
Welcome back. With your news, I am Marisol, Amaya. Southern and coastal areas of the country have been experiencing the most rainfall since Wednesday as we go through another wave of moist weather typical for this time of year. There were 2 inches of rainfall over Toledo, especially Barranco. The west also got some rains, but the majority happened offshore and along coastal areas. More rainfall is also expected in the next few days. So far, the forecast is for 2 to 4 inches of rainfall through to Monday. However, that is expected to occur mostly along offshore and coastal areas. We hear from Shayna Young, senior climatologist.
So overall, over our area, we have very moist and somewhat unstable conditions prevailing for the last few days. We got somewhat of a break for the earlier parts of yesterday, but for many areas, especially along coastal and offshore areas, they have been receiving rainfall since this morning. It has decreased slightly and has moved inland, but there are some showers that are approaching the country.
How soon could we start seeing that next wave of showers?
I would say maybe like in the next 2 hours or so for Belize City area. But the southern and western parts of the country are getting light rains at the moment.
Talk to us a little bit about what kind of rainfall we've been seeing in terms of the amounts.
So for today, the rainfall has been mostly along the coast and offshore areas, with a little bit over an inch near Belize City and also in the south, over Punta Gorda and Barranco. Most areas of the country did receive some amount of rainfall since midnight, but not as much, less than 10 millimeters. So basically, just like a brief shower since midnight. But most of the activity has been near the Belize City area and offshore since midnight. Since yesterday, um, the southern and coastal parts of the country has been the area that has been receiving most of the rains. So yes, between yesterday and today, in the south, they got the most with about 2 inches of rainfall over Toledo, especially near Barranco. So the western parts of the country got rains yesterday also, but not as much as the coast and some southern locations.
The north received a little over 2 inches of rain, and that led to flooding in the area of the Orange Walk district known as Albion. It includes the villages of San Antonio, Santa Cruz, and San Roman near the Rio Hondo. It was preceded by another wave of rainfall about 2 weeks ago, which compounded the situation. The Belize Defense Force has deployed small vessels to assist with getting people out to their workplaces, school, and to conduct their daily activities. Present on the ground was Area Representative Ramon Monche Cervantes. He was joined later in the day by Prime Minister Honorable John Bersenio and the head of the National Emergency Management Organization, Daniel Mendez. Mendez shared what the work has looked like so far.
We have been in operation since before Tropical Storm Nadine. So the operations up in the north have not stopped really. So they have only changed, and so we have been coordinating the support to all of the affected communities. So what you see out here today is the result of that coordination, our ability to ensure that we're able to mobilize resources to assist any affected community. So we have gone from the BDF driving across to providing boat services, and so we will continue to do this as long as necessary in this village and any other village that is being affected.
In terms of, the ministers mentioned, here in San Antonio, we're seeing some residents affected. Has there been any shelters open or, just information about how many families are being affected directly?
Well, I don't have that number directly. The Orange Walk team will have that number. But what I can tell you is that if there is a need to open shelters, those will be opened as necessary, and the assessments will be conducted on persons who were affected to ensure that they receive assistance.
In terms of, moving forward, if the situation is to get worse, like they are expecting it to, what is the next step in terms of what you guys are doing? Getting people across. Would there be a need to stop, or what would be that situation?
Well, we will continue to do assessments as necessary. If there's a need to change the plan, we will do so. If there's a need to add more to it, we will do so as well. But it's a constant process. Every day we do assessment. We do constant risk assessments as well to make sure that what we're doing is also ensuring that people's safety is our number one priority. So it continues. It's a daily base. It's a daily thing. I can't really tell you what will happen tomorrow because things may change quickly. But we maintain that flexibility both at the national and district level.
Tomorrow, the Prime Minister plans to go into the Belize River Valley along with NEMO Minister Andre Perez. Meanwhile, there is a broad area of low pressure that the National Meteorological Service is monitoring. Between now and Saturday, the chance of formation is 10%. In the 7-day outlook, though, it has a moderate potential or 60% chance of forming into a tropical depression. However, the projected path is for it to head northward in the direction of Jamaica. According to the Met Service, it is only expected to pass near us. If anything changes, they will so advise.
Yes, our peak for Belize especially is normally between September and October. So that's why most of our storms or tropical cyclones tend to affect us during that period. But that's not to say that you can't get storms forming outside of the period and even outside of the hurricane season, because we have had storms form later or other parts of the year. So, but for us, at least in the next 7 days, even though there is this broad area of low pressure currently, there's nothing that has developed in the area. And then also, at least the models are indicating at this time that even if something does form, it's not going to come towards us. But like I mentioned, we are in the hurricane season, so we're supposed to always be monitoring. And that is exactly what we do here at the Met Office, 24 hours monitor, just in case that anything does develop. But at least for now, in the next 7 days, even with this area of low pressure, it doesn't look like it will be of a threat to us. We will get rains because it is very close to us, and the entire area, the entire Northwest Caribbean is very moist and unstable. Hence the reason why we have been getting rains, not necessarily from this area of low pressure, but just overall in the region. It is still very moist, and that will continue at least for the next few days.
Is it too early right now to say if there's even any potential of it coming more down toward our area? Yeah, if you could speak to that.
Um, at this moment, no, and there are several reasons for that, but one of it is that we are moving out of the hurricane season, like Jules mentioned, and then starting to go into the dry season where we normally get, like, the frontal systems moving closer to our area, and that tends to steer these later season storms away from our area or more northward, as most of the models have been indicating for this particular system. It will be following the movement of the frontal systems or upper level highs that occur during this time of year.
In political news, that is United Democratic Party standard bearer Dr. Omar Figueroa has recognized the Honorable Tracy Panton as the interim leader of the party. In a letter to both Honorable Moses Shine-Barrow and to Honorable Tracy Panton dated October 28, Figueroa says the Unity Convention on October 20 cannot be ignored, and his decision to take a position is based on the urgency of the situation. Also signing on to the letter are the delegates of his division. Figueroa goes on to urge all other constituency executive committees to do the same so there can, quote, be a final and lasting resolution, end quote. Figueroa explains that while they have tried to focus on their work in the division, the leadership dilemma has presented major hurdles, and the fragmentation, quote, now threatens to obliterate the party's national viability, end quote. Figueroa, who was not present for the Unity Convention, stated that it was, quote, a great show of unity that had not been displayed by our members for years, end quote. He also explained that their decision comes after having gauged the pulse of all their campaign zones, zone leaders, campaigners, and party stalwarts. According to Figueroa, they had considered the holding of a national leadership convention no later than December 1st this year, but that the time will most likely not allow for it. Figueroa's decision is seen as a weighty one, and it is left to be seen how Barrow will react. Meanwhile, Elodio Aragon, the standard bearer for Orange Walk East, along with his delegates, also issued a similar letter, fully endorsing Panton as the interim leader of the party. He writes, quote, at this time, we believe that Tracy Panton is the leader who can best serve the United Democratic Party and lead the charge into the next general elections of 2025, end quote. As an aside, we note that this week's edition of the Guardian newspaper indicates there is a new direction in the UDP under Panton. And as we shared, parts of Belize have been getting lots of rain for the past week or so. While not all areas are experiencing flood conditions, the rains can still be a cause for concern when it comes to the health of residents. Dr. Russell Manzanero, the head of the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, gave some reminders on what to do to avoid the spread of germs. Dr. Manzanero cautioned parents to keep children at home from school if they are sick, and advised employees to stay away from the workplace and seek medical attention if they are truly sick.
Yes, and these rains don't seem to stop. So definitely there's when we look at the numbers and we look at the trends, we do have an increase respiratory infections. We do have an increase gastrointestinal infections, or a combination. I say a combination because sometimes when we get affected by a cold or the flu, you will notice that sometimes you don't have the respiratory, but you also have the gastric problem. So even that can be we're looking at that. Word of caution is that right now we do have those in place, but remember the flu shots at this time is what is important. We try to do the prevention measures is the important things. I know we can't do much with the rain because there's a lot of flooding, all of that, but please, if you can with the children, for example, make sure they wear their clothing good, rubber boots, make sure they're covered, make sure that if they're sick, very sick, and they're having fever, active fever at that time, please not send them to school, let them stay at home, at least to take care of them. We don't want that to transmit within schools. Remember, they're already in a closed environment. You put them together, they want to spread it, the teacher get infected, and it's a whole cycle. So at this time, we just ask them to keep safe, try to protect themselves against that. But of course, the regular hand washing, the regular cough etiquette, you don't want to cough up in the ear, make sure you do your cough in your elbow or something. So those are the measures we want to put in place. So there's the things.
Is that the same advice to the workplace? If you're sick, you better stay home?
It would be advisable if you're at the workplace and you are sick. By sick, I mean you can obviously that you're sick, you're having sore throat, you're having a fever, you're coughing. Those instances there, of course, we don't recommend you going to work, right? That's why we say visit your medical provider and see if they examine you. Regular flu can turn out to be something severe. I mean, you could complicate and get a pneumonia, and we have those complications as well.
As to the areas prone to flooding, Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, the Director of Public Health and Wellness, said that the effects of climate change include health problems, and it's something that the ministry is tackling.
I mean, we spoke a lot about climate change and the impact that climate change has on health, on clean water, on sustainable food supplies. All these things are impacted by flooding, by any shocks or any major weather events. We're working directly with the village councils, the town councils, the city council to ensure that people have access to clean water, and that people, especially in the villages up north that are flooding at this time, that people have access to chlorine tablets and to the ability to ensure that the water that they're drinking is clean. So we are doing a lot of health education and health promotion in these areas.
After After the break, the story of Belize's gill net ban, successes, setbacks, and continued conservation struggles. Part 1 comes up in our next segment. Stay with us.
As motorcyclists, we know the thrill of
Drugstore, 28 Freetown Road, where you are better off alive than dead. Freetown Drugstore, telephone 223-2876.
The news continues. Before coming to office and since assuming power in November 2020, the Minister of Infrastructure Development was asked and committed to having public works contracts placed on a website. That has still not happened, and Minister Julius Espat was asked about it this week.
Well, we have been open. Whenever the media has requested any information from our ministry, we have provided. In fact, Jules has requested contracts from us in the past, and we have provided it to him.
But should we have to ask?
No, you are taking us to a level that we all want to achieve, and I believe the government of Belize is presently working on that right now with the digitization of the entire ministries. It's not only MIDH, it's all ministries, and so they are working on a portal that is not specific per ministry. In fact, they have opened up a central procurement unit that is in charge of that under the Ministry of Finance. They are going through I think the final phases in how to address the digitization of contracts. But yes, it's important. But we have tried as best as we can to be as open as we possibly can.
On Wednesday morning, police from different units made a bust of 4.2 kilos of cannabis at the home of a major player in the PIV gang in Belize City. However, that individual was not at home, and police detained one other person who was present. Later on, police were called out to an empty lot on Marigold Lane, where they found 3 firearms wrapped in a cloth. They included a chrome Colt DA-41 revolver, a chrome and black 9mm Ruger brand pistol, and a wooden handle and black 22 Ruger rifle. These were labeled as found property. Reports now are that members of the rank and file believe the actual owner of the cannabis is being absolved from any charges in exchange for giving up the firearms, reportedly on a directive from the command of the department. And now we bring you part 1 of a special report that I put together with support from Internews' Earth Journalism Network, EJN. The feature assesses the Gillnet ban that was enacted in November 2020. It looks at what worked and what hasn't. It will be aired in 4 parts. Here is part 1.
On a bright October day this year, Toledo activist William Will Mejia was left in awe on seeing a baitfish shark feeding frenzy not far from the mouth of the Sarstoon River, Belize's southernmost border.
For the first time in many, many years, seeing sharks near the Guatemalan border. Because the amount of gillnets they have, sharks was completely eliminated. You know, at one time, all the bait fish were gone from that area, so the area became almost barren.
Whereas the Guatemalan side of the Sarstoon River has always been populated, not so the Belize side. Driven by the need for economic survival, dozens of Guatemalan fishers, primarily from the Sarstoon Bar community, have, by many local accounts, routinely entered Belize's waters in that area illegally and plundered our resources, thereby putting the marine ecosystem at risk, with ripple effects on Belize's largest revenue earner, tourism. Our waters were denuded of a diversity of species, including large predators and grazers that are important to reef health. The problem of illegal transboundary fishing is not unique to Belize and dates back decades to the start of our fishery. As far back as December 1981, the Belize Fishermen Association petitioned Cabinet for action to curb illegal fishing in the north and south during closed season. At the time, the association even offered to put vessels at the disposal of the fisheries unit to conduct enforcement. The cost of fuel for 10 days of patrols was estimated at Belize $4,000 or $400 daily. To make matters worse, decisions of those in government have facilitated the pillaging of our marine resources. In February 2005, then Fisheries Minister Michael Espat, who was also the People's United Party's Toledo East Area representative, opened Belize's fisheries resources to exploitation by permanent residents via Statutory Instrument Number 23 of 2005. Many Guatemalan fishers took advantage, as did Hondurans just a few short years before, as per SI number 66 of 2002, signed by then Minister Daniel Silva. That legal cover for foreign fishers was non-existent. Belize's fisheries resources were only accessible to Belizean citizens. There were concerns that even though licensed, these foreign fishers could still engage in illegal fishing activity in our waters, precisely due to lack of monitoring. For years, Mejia, the leader of the Belize Territorial Volunteers BTV, went it alone, conducting costly civilian enforcement expeditions out of pocket. In Barranco, our southernmost village, and near the Sarstoon River mouth, year after year he captured images of Guatemalan fishers engaged, unimpeded, in unregulated transboundary fishing in plain sight of the Belize Defense Forces Sarstoon forward operating base. While the Sarstoon area became ground zero for illegal gill net use due to Mejia's activism, Dr. Rachel Graham's 2007 study had discovered that Guatemalan and Honduran fishers operated year-round all the way from the south to the fringes of Belize City in at least 7 fishing camps. They did not spare protected areas, primarily fishing in the dead of night. They mainly targeted sharks, but also prohibited species like permit, tarpon, and bonefish, critical to the sport fishing industry in Belize, worth a whopping $240 million, according to a 2022 study by Dr. Anthony J. Fedler. The fishers were found to be harvesting millions of pounds of shark meat and thousands of pounds of the lucrative shark fins worth US $100 per pound in Guatemala in 2019. The reporter, in an investigative piece in 2019, reported that buyers receiving product from fishers in Livingston, Isabel, confirmed the catch was from Belize. The foreign fishers' gear of choice? The gill net, a most unsustainable fishing method which, it was later found, was being used in extended form like trawlers, dragging on the ocean floor. As the name gill net suggests, fish swimming into the net are trapped by their gills when they try to escape. Gill nets are hung vertically in the water with the top edge buoyed by floats. The problem is that they also trap protected species and entangle megafauna, the majority of which often do not survive. Particularly, juvenile fish caught in nets die before they can be released, as gill nets are often left unattended for hours on end. Gill nets also lend themselves to ghost fishing when lost or abandoned gear continues catching and killing marine life. Marine conservation organizations had tried to tackle the gill net problem before, but in 2017 and 2018, there was a renewed push by the NGO Oceana in Belize and the Belize Coalition for Sustainable Fisheries. They led a joint stakeholder effort to get gill nets banned in all of Belize. The NGOs had galvanized support from some commercial fishers who, decades ago, had concluded the gear was destructive, deadly, and indiscriminate. They were clear it was only benefiting a few, including foreigners, while hurting everyone else. Renowned activist Eworth Garbutt was part of the coalition. He described the use of gill nets at the time as almost being on steroids given its pervasiveness.
We now take you back up north and hear from the Prime Minister about his visit to the flooded areas in parts of the Orange Walk district.
Well, certainly your heart goes out to the people that are being affected, but every year this happens, and I think that our people have to be more realistic. Climate change upon us. We're having more rain and stronger rains. So obviously these floodings are not going to stop. So I think that there are a number of things that I think that as a government we need to take a hard look for the long term. For instance, right now I was talking to the representative about the riverbanks, that probably we need to declare all of the riverbanks as a reserve so that we could prevent people from building too close to the river. When it's not raining, it's beautiful and you want to live by the river, but look at what's happening. And this is going to happen every year and it's going to get worse. Unfortunately, we're told that this weekend we expect probably another 2 to 3 inches of rain in the entire country. So this is not going to stop. Douglas. Douglas, I remember from the time when my father was a representative in 1974 to 1984. It was during his time, I think it's around 1976, that the flooding was so bad that they set up Nuevo San Juan, so that everybody should have moved to Nuevo San Juan. Many moved, but a lot stayed. And some of them that moved sold their land in the Nuevo San Juan and came back to Douglas. Every year, we're spending an inordinate amount of monies and effort to try to help. As it is right now, we're looking at declaring Douglas, that the health department should declare it a health hazard. And so that because of the pit latrines, there are many pit latrines are underwater, so all of that water is coming out and people can get sick. So we are again working with the representative, with Munchi, be fixing the community center in San Pablo between today and tomorrow, so that by Saturday we could move everybody out there. But again, speaking with the rep, thinking long term, certainly in our next government, God willing, we may need to buy out all of these people and give them land somewhere else, and so then we can just shut down Douglas Village, and then so that then people can go there for recreational purposes but not to live, because every year we have the same problem over and over and over, and they expect the government to help them. It's not fair to the Belizean taxpayers to be able to every year to go and bail out, although we have to help them. We're citizens. So we have to start to think about long term.
After the break, diabetes situation in Belize not really improving, and the Department of the Environment is getting ready for a national anti-littering campaign. Stay tuned.
It could be a damaged fender or bumper, but for us, it's our lives.
November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and it continues to be a disease that affects many Belizeans. Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, the Director of Public Health and Wellness, shared what the ministry is doing to encourage a healthier lifestyle. She admits that for the past few years, the situation has not seen any real improvement when it comes to tackling the disease in the country.
Yes, well, a lot of our public health programs and projects are aimed at reducing NCDs, which are non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases remain in the top 5 for morbidity and mortality in Belize for 5 consecutive years. So this includes diabetes, deaths from hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancer. So these are areas that we need to ensure that we put priority in. And we're doing a number of programs. Like I mentioned, we're trying to start with the students as young as preschool. We've been going into and giving health education and talks, and doing a little bit more than that. We're working with the Ministry of Education, we're working with the Ministry of Agriculture, with PAHO, with UNICEF. So it is a collective collaboration that we're working at to reduce the NCDs, namely obesity, which can lead to these diseases. It has remained pretty much constant for the last 5 years. The NCDs are in the top 5, as I said. It might be 3 or 4, but it remains pretty much constant. So we know that there's a lot of work that we have to do. Launching the Love Your Heart campaign as well, that has been very instrumental in helping to get people moving, get people walking, and we're offering free exercise, yoga, and dance classes in Orange Walk and in Belmopan on a regular basis. So these things are helping people to come out and to get moving. It helps with the cardiovascular aspects, and it helps with your fitness and mental health.
In other news, the Department of the Environment, DOE, is getting ready to launch a national anti-littering campaign, of which the first step was the training of traffic wardens. The DOE will work with municipalities across the country and will also focus on spreading awareness. Then, in January, a national cleanup campaign will be launched where volunteers will join in to clean along the highways, waterways, and illegal dump sites. Environmental technician Shani Rayburn explained more.
So we're currently done with our branding for the national campaign, the anti-littering campaign. I can't tell you the name right now because it's a big launch. But what I can say is that the Department of the Environment and the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Climate Change have had confirmed activities that we'll be conducting throughout the country. And so the training of the littering officers is just the beginning. It's just the inception of this entire process. And so we will be having billboards, we'll be having signs on drums, we'll be doing installation of different drums within different municipalities. And so those are just simple activities that community members can be a part to show their own civic pride and their own responsibility. Actually, on January 11th of next year, we're having a cleanup, a national cleanup campaign where we'll be reaching out to different municipalities, villages, and of course, businesses and organizations that would like to be a part of this cleanup. This cleanup will include cleaning up of illegal dump sites, cleaning up of the highways, cleaning up of riverways, looking at these things as pressing areas within their own communities. One of the things we also want to encourage is to using the Clean Swell app that looks at how much garbage is being collected. So it looks at all the metrics being collected of the waste, what is being collected the most within that community. And so this is on January 11th. We're encouraging people to register and to sign up. We are going to be start advertising it. And so, I mean, you're starting a new year. Let your new year resolution be a greener Belize.
The traffic wardens across the country are being trained on how and when to issue tickets that violate littering laws. The initiative began last year and is a collaboration with the various city, town, and village councils. Here again is Shani Rayburn.
We started last year with different communities. So we counted and we looked at the town councils. And so we reached out to Punta Gorda Town Council, San Ignacio, Santa Elena. We also did San Pedro. And so this year we continued that. We continued the workshop, and I know the one that you recently saw is Key Cocker. right? One of the things about it is that inside our legislation, there are several officers that can issue a littering ticket. The only way, though, that they can issue a littering ticket is by knowing that they have that authority. And so for them to have that authority, they have to have training. And so the departments are key to train these officers, both traffic wardens, police department, and other persons that would like to be a part of the training, right? Inside the legislation, it also states that someone like a random person within the community can also be a littering officer based on the discretion of the minister for the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Climate Change, right? So they have to go through a vetting process. So those individuals were also invited because they have to be vetted to ensure that they are outstanding citizens within the community.
What has been the response from those who have been trained?
The response has been good. So we have trained several traffic wardens throughout the country. The only one that is pending to do a training is in Belmopan. We've done police department as well, so they are aware of it. Right now, to be honest, they are the ones that are reaching out to ensure that we issue the littering ticket books to them. And so we're working on printing those ticket books and then showing them the software of how they will go recording these tickets that are being issued by these individuals within the different communities.
Rayburn said concerns about the implementation of the tickets and fines were addressed.
Yes, so that has been a concern for the different municipalities, right? And then, of course, the department don't want any issues to arise from it. So we've been looking at that internally with the different municipalities. We have found ways to look at that. And so one of it has been the vetting process, right? Because we have to ensure that I'm not just giving you a ticket because I don't like you, right? And so we've been doing vetting throughout that process as well.
In more health news, the 41st Annual Belize Medical and Dental Association 3-day conference kicked off today at the Caribbean Motors showroom in Belize City. Gathered were medical professionals from both the public and private sector. Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, who was the guest speaker, spoke of the conference and its objectives.
Well, the Congress, this BMDA Congress has been happening for quite a number of years now. And this year, the Congress, the theme of the Congress is ensuring that we enhance public health initiatives in health. And because I am the Director of Public Health and Wellness, I was asked to give the keynote address. So some of the areas that were discussed are exactly what has been done in country to promote public health. And public health basically encompasses prevention of diseases, increasing immunization, vaccines, improving your diet, ensuring that we have a healthy population and a population that's able to produce and perform. I spoke about a lot that has been achieved in public health. For example, Belize joined only 4 other countries in the region of the Americas to have eliminated malaria. That is a big deal. We've also been able to eliminate the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. Again, very important because it protects our women and it protects our the unborn child as well. But we are also involved in many other aspects of public health. We have launched initiatives like the Love Your Heart campaign, the Hearts Initiative. We've introduced more vaccines into our, more childhood vaccines into our vaccine schedule. We have done the Healthy School Initiative, and this started just a year ago. This is an extremely important initiative because the end result is to ban sugar-sweetened drinks for schools all over this country at all levels. It gives our children the opportunity to be provided with a healthier option for food and drinks while in school.
And parts of Africa have started to see the spread of a new strain of Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, known as Clade 1B. This new strain appears to spread more easily from one person to another through close physical contact, including sex. The previous strain being spread seemed to primarily affect men who have sex with men. However, this new strain is different, and everyone is at risk of contracting it. The virus recently spread to the UK after one person returned home after vacationing in Africa. Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, the Director of Public Health and Wellness, said the ministry is keeping an eye on this development.
Well, with the Mpox situation in country, we have been able to sensitize our healthcare workers. We have been able to heighten our surveillance, so people coming in are being tested, and they're tested right in country. So we have built the capacity in our central medical lab staff and in our healthcare workers to take the samples, and the CML staff would go ahead and test. So we are following that very closely as well.
And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on this station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join me again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Marisol. Amaya. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.